welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild landscape of Scotland. And for today's adventure I was actually going to go to another location near here, but as I was driving past Backwater Dam I noticed the water is at such a low height that I've never seen before. So I thought, why not pull the car in and have a wee adventure? We'll go down here and explore, because there's so much land here exposed now that used to be underwater, or it's been underwater for many years. So it's cool to go down and document any history which is now on display, because this is a man-made dam here, Backwater Dam, in the 1960s. So there's actually cool history buried underneath the water. And recently on the channel we documented Lintrathen Loch and an old abandoned farm which was now visible because of the low waters, like in the summer there. But yeah, when I drove up here I thought there's going to be some history on display potentially, and that's what we're all about on this channel, folks. Spontaneous adventures to find history undocumented on YouTube. Probably when this place was filled up with water in the 1960s, and there was no YouTube or local folk going around making videos. But there is an interesting documentary about the Backwater Dam getting built on the Scottish Water YouTube channel. So if anybody is interested in the dam construction, they can check that out. I'm actually seeing evidence down here of history which must have been under the water for years. I can't even believe how much of this land is exposed. Like, the water's just so low. So I think last time I even walked down to the water's edge at this side was probably about 10 or 15 years ago. I remember coming up here with a few of my mates and we were actually like skimming stones and stuff over the water. But at that time it just never was this low. And it's crazy to see it. It's like coming to a completely different location. And it is mad in Scotland how the landscape can change so much just over the few months of the year. Last summer, me and Highlander 87, we went on an adventure around pretty much the edge of there and then up to the top and beyond to some abandoned farms. And at that time the water was right up to the trees. Look at this, here's some evidence of history here, folks. Yeah, there was a couple of small like farm crofts lost under the waters of Backwater Dam, and I believe there's definitely some history over here to be seen. But when I saw something like this, I just thought I need to come over and have a look. It is a strange kind of little square, probably part of a croft or whatever. I can see there's a sheep kicking about in the long grass as well. It's maybe gotten out of its field at the far side. So this is the field that I first walked in, and now I'm looking at it from this angle. You can actually see at one time there's been an old road coming down here, and you can still see the lie of the land even though it's overgrown, and it's going down past the stones we just looked at. But then also I believe there's more down here, potentially a farm croft, and then this would have been the road coming down. It is amazing just to uncover like nuggets of history abandoned for years and forgotten. It's so cool in Scotland to have areas like this to explore, but then also to have the history hidden within it, folks. I can't even speak. And then look, today we've got the sunshine. This is actually a morning adventure, so the sun's probably not at its full height yet today. Wow, it's pretty good conditions for exploring. And at this time of year it's exploring season now, and most of the long grasses and bushes and stuff, they've all died back for the winter. Yeah, this is cool. Look, there's been trees here growing before the time of the water. Basically all the history here would have been on the go before the water level rose, because this is the high level height here of the water. So that construction down here that we'll take a look at in a minute, that was obviously kind of like normally 2 meters under the water at least. And with the flow and the current of the water, it just demolishes whatever little like walls and things was left. Sometimes they actually bulldozed most things, and then obviously they filled the dam up, so there wasn't like full buildings with roofs offen, but the walls and stuff still remained. And then over the years it just basically got worn and knocked down from the water. But all my years living nearby this area, I've never seen the water this low at Backwater, so it's so cool to come down here and explore. I do apologise for any wind today in the audio, folks. It's extremely windy now. I'm at this height. I do have the windsock on the camera though. Yeah, that's really interesting that there. I wonder what that originally was. There is like wooden posts. I'm just being obviously cautious that I don't walk into quicksand or an extremely boggy area here. Yeah, this is amazing to see. This has clearly been like a walkway, or maybe like a boardwalk kind of bit, or I can't even think what it would be, folks. And then look at this side. There's definitely evidence here of more walls. Wow, I'm going through pretty stodgy sediment. Yeah, this is super interesting. Look at this, there's a wall line right here. Wow, look, the clouds is just on top of the trees all around this valley here. And Backwater Dam is just such a nice area. I can actually see the river at the far side, and that would have been one of the main feeds here, filling up the dam at the original times of the construction. So let's walk down this ancient walkway here, or this ancient track, and see what clues there is at the end that might tell us about the history. It is interesting to see how they've got all that cement around there. So we are definitely looking at something that's pre-Backwater Dam time period. And it is interesting to uncover layers of history like this, because when we went to Lintraethen Loch, I was amazed at how much we actually found. Look, you can see the ground here has probably got quite a lot of clay in it, and that's why it's this colour. Look, there's been people walking here already, exploring. It's probably quite a cool area, this, for like walking the dog and stuff like that. Yeah, look at this old walkway. That is just such a mad bit of history to find hidden within the waters of this. And then we've got little streams and stuff flowing in. Each of these areas here I think's been buildings and little parts of some sort of croft, but I'm not seeing a croft house at all. Not unless there's been more maybe just under the water here. History gone and forgotten. And even this here, it's a fair mound of stones. Oh, look at this, there's a beer bottle, or an old wine bottle top. It's quite thick. The glass on that thing is proper thick, folks. Wow, it's so peaceful up here. Not even a sound but the waves and the wind. Anyway, I'm thinking I could head on a little bit further around. Oh look, there's a brick with some writing on it. Yeah, so get in the comments, folks, your theories onto what this may have been. And shout out everybody that gets in the comments. Shout out everybody that drops super thanks on some of the videos as well. I really appreciate the audience and the people that watch my videos, and it's so cool I can keep sharing adventures like this with people all over the world, documenting wee corners of Scotland that's hardly seen and hardly documented. This here is like a little stream. Here I can actually see it comes underneath like a little bridge. So I'm thinking there may have been a road or something leading that way. You can see this dike line or remains of a building. You can actually see the footprint here of the foundation, and that just shows it's probably been a proper building rather than just a dry stone dike. Even here, look at this, folks. A wooden construction's been here, probably a shed, because look, you can see the outline where it's been. See, potentially that was even shed related or a farm related building. Yeah, that's interesting. Look, that's probably had obviously proper posts into the ground with like the roof and stuff built onto it and the walls. Maybe a stone wall at that side with the door going out. And then sometimes once you start exploring it, it comes to life. You start to see the site, uncover the layers of history. There could have even been an area here where they were using like a water wheel, or using the burn here to power a water wheel, because we also saw that at Luntrathen as well. Yeah, this stream is just carving its way through the sediment. Just think, all this normally under the water. Yeah, this is a proper little old bridge here, and it shows that it's still a bridge even though it's been under the water. The strength of the original stones that they built over that. This is the old track, and it just shows it lines up with the wall lines. So cool, folks. Look at this. This is the old track coming along, and I dare say there may have been like a house or whatever up at this side. Oh look, here's more evidence of history. My feet are just properly, it's like slipping in and sliding around in this mud. Look, here's all the remains of buildings. And that's like what I was saying, often when they first built the dam they would have bulldozed any big parts of structures, and then it would just be the small bits left like that. And this could be why we're seeing evidence of it here. Old bricks and old stones, maybe parts of an old farmhouse foundation or farm building. And if I was guessing where a farmhouse would be, you would think some of these big stones and stuff here may actually be from it. Yeah, this is an interesting little spot on the land here. I think there's definitely been buildings here or some sort of construction. Wow, this is just incredible, folks. I didn't even realise there was going to be this much history at Backwater, just this close to the shore. When I was thinking about abandoned crofts and stuff being under the water, I always imagined like way under the deep bits that you would never see. So to see this, it's special. And I'm just thinking I'll head on a wee bit further around and have a look around the corner. It's just like a mad, like infinite beach that just goes all the way around the whole side of here. Even at the other side you can see the dry stone dikes leading down under the water. So check that out, folks. Back when they built things like that, they knew how to control the water and stuff, and the original farmers that built things like this were the people that drained the wild boglands on these hills and made the first farms, carved the lands for the agriculture that still goes on to this day here. But nowadays often the ditches aren't cleaned out as much. Back at this time they could just guide the water as they pleased. But then you can imagine now this stream hits the high level of the dam way up there, so the bridge isn't even used, and it's amazing the water found its way back to this bridge after all the years when the water did lower. So you can actually see a cool detail of the history here. There's been a dike line at this area, but also look, there's been a forest, because you can still see the trees that's been felled at that time. So that is interesting as well. There's been so much going on in this area. Layers of history. And sometimes I'm just thinking, obviously thinking of crofts and stuff. Again, it might have just been a small countryside house with a few sheds even. Each explorer often teaches you about the next explorer you go to, and sometimes you piece together history from things you've learned at other sites. And it's easy to compare this one to Luntrathen, but it could be completely different historically. And this could be a little forest that at one time was next to a little house or settlement. And it's cool to think that wall line we noticed further up the hill there, that'll also be related to this. Anyway, I'm going to head a wee bit further out and keep my eyes peeled here for some history. It's amazing to see this. It's like the land that time forgot, and it's just a vast wilderness up here. The wind's blowing through, super cold, but I'm heading a little bit further. Look at this, the lichen. It's probably blowing here from the trees in a storm. It's just strange to imagine how this land looked before the water. It's like this bit here gets super eroded from the waves caused from the wind coming up the valley. The shape of the valley drives the water. And check out here. It's so interesting to imagine the folk walking here before the water was there. And another thing, that river that we can still see at the far side, up at the top of the dam, that would have flowed right down this land, and all these other little streams would have connected to it. Oh, look, there's some animals living down here. They look like some big burrows, and I'm not sure if it's like badgers or whatever, but for sure when the water level rises again, they things will have to move house. So look at that, folks. I've been seeing a lot of pipes and stuff that looks like that, and I believe that's from maybe like the houses and the buildings that used to be at the side of this area. Check that out, what's even going on there? What even is that thing, folks? It's like a little Pokemon thing. Look at this piece of land here, folks. This is so cool. Check the way the water erodes, and it takes away the foundation of the trees here, washes out their roots, then they all end up falling in, floating about. I think that's the reason some years they let the water get super low, and it's actually it cleans it in a way. Instead of having it just at the highest height all the time. I think it's probably good for the land around the dam, but also probably to replenish the water as well in a big way. Check it out, folks, this is crazy. It's like a piece of land that's just off the maps, and I don't think many folk walk around this area. The only footprints I'm seeing here are like animals' footprints. And look, we're kind of at the top of the high water now. I'm not really very keen on walking through a lot of this area though, because it'll be so boggy. That could be like quicksand. If you went in there, like, you would not get back out. And you always have to be kind of aware of the land you're in when you're exploring, especially if you're on a solo adventure. Check it out, folks, Backwater Dam, like we've never seen before on the channel. It's amazing. In Scotland you can come to somewhere you've been before, but yet it's just so different. And when you look at this land, it's just a barren wasteland here. Look, some random old, I'm being really careful because this is spongy underfoot here. Look at the old McEwen's tin, folks. They didn't make them like that anymore. Whoa, it's so spongy there, and that was what I was saying back further down the path there, or further down the beach. If you went into there, you could be in serious trouble. You would sink right into that sand. Look how even this land here, before the times of the water, actually had the sand underneath it. A lot of the land here was originally carved for the glaciers, and all this sediment left underneath, like on these rolling hills, is actually just from the glaciation period, like grinding the land, grinding the mountains and turning it into stuff like this. So look at this forest here at the far side. That's still the way the trees were after the storm last year. A lot of lands in Scotland were devastated, and we can actually see that with that forest. Maybe that's the reason they've lowered the water. Maybe they're going to use this opportunity to go around the edge and clear some of the trees. Some of the Scottish storms in these lands can be extreme. And yeah, look, we're just right at the top of the loch. This has been a cool adventure. It's like we're on just like a beach, but it's a countryside beach. I would love to go over there and look at the river, but I'm just a bit wary here, folks. Check it out, folks, look at the footprints. Leads on across there. An animal that you actually get in these lands is the wild cats, and they're a big type of like wild cat. Obviously it kicks about. They're like a grey kind of green colour, and I have seen them in the wild running around. So that could be what left that footprints, but obviously I'm not 100% on stuff like that. So check it out, folks, here's a cool bit in the land, undocumented and unseen, and it's actually an area where two streams or barrens join together. Here is the area, Wow, this ground here is proper stodgy. Always say the word proper, right? I need to get out of that habit, folks. Yeah, look, there's two streams come down here. The water's clear off the hilltops. Fresh Scottish water. Probably the snow thawing out. It's like I'm on a different planet, this barren landscape. It's like a post-apocalyptic scene here. Windswept, barren land. Whoa! Look how far in my foot went. And that's what I was saying, you need to be so careful in areas like this. I could literally feel my foot sinking. I was just going to wash my boot in the water. I dare say though, it'll be dirty again by the time I get back. Whoa, this is mad. Like, the longer you stand here, the further down you go. So I'm going to get out of this little spot here, folks. Check it out, folks, an ancient historical wonder there. It's like an old lamp or whatever, some sort of old metal thing. And I just noticed there's more history here hidden behind these trees. And I've come along here so I'd be out of the cold wind for a minute, because that's just extreme. Freezing conditions almost. It is slightly warmer, but no much. And you can hear the wind hitting the other side of these trees. Look at the devastation in that forest from here. Yeah, it was interesting to come around and see this area as well. Obviously the water's normally right up to the tree line right around here. And it's crazy to think like these burns and little streams probably always had that path, and then once the water lowers down, they find their old path through the valley. The old river becomes the original old river once again. So check out this thing here, folks. I could see it from the distance and I wasn't sure if it was any history. It's maybe not that old. Could even be somebody that comes camping here or whatever in the summer. They've maybe built a wee stone pile or whatever, who would even know? It doesn't look like there's been any buildings here though, I wouldn't say. It's hard to tell often. At the other side it was more conclusive with what we found. Look at this here, it's like just so mad to explore places like this. I don't know, like there's a heron. I've seen 3 herons already today on this video. Oh, there's another one. That's the 4th heron. And that just shows it's just wildlife and nature on this channel, as well as the abandoned history. Areas like this, they're just unexplored hardly on YouTube even, because it's so like out of the way. These 2 herons are flying overhead here, folks. Look at the way this burn meanders. That'll be so deep there in that pool, and even underfoot here it could give way if it's been underwashed. So this has been fun to explore this area, and just to imagine the folk that lived here and worked in these lands before the times of Backwater Dam. And it's amazing to get the opportunity to come here when the water's low. Obviously if anybody comes up here for a walk, they need to be careful on that softer mud at the top, because it is super dangerous and you could sink right in. Now I'm back around in the wind, but just check it out. I'm going to walk right up by the trees on the way back, because on the way in here I walked kind of around the edge at the furthest out point. So I'm wanting to maximise my chances of finding some history here. And it is interesting often what's washed up at the side of places like this. So I've made it back around as far as this old croft and the old remains of whatever this was over here. It's unusual the way the wood has got the concrete around it, but there is evidence obviously like wooden sheds, and then these perimeter walls here, and it is history from such an ancient time that it's cool to see it here in the flesh. And then when the water level rises, it's cool to imagine the history underneath all that. It's just basically protected from the water in a lot of ways. Yeah, this is mad, look at this. I just thought I would throw the camera on before I head up to the car. Mad. Some old ancient walkway or maybe even a shed or whatever from a certain time. There's the bottom of an old bottle. Who even knows, folks? Little historical nuggets related to the farm or the house that was at this spot. But yeah, what a cool adventure it's been, documenting a piece of history we had never seen before on the channel, and I didn't even know it was this close to the shore. And then the adventure to come into this wilderness. Look at this as well, an old bit of pottery, or potentially something out of the farmhouse that was at this spot. But yeah, often the adventure to try and find the history, or going on mad wee spontaneous adventures like that, that's when you find the coolest things. Even the wildlife, like the birds of prey we saw, and then the herons, crazy, massive animals that live up here. They're all out hunting, looking for their next meal, and areas like this provide that for them. And yeah, it's just so cool. You could call it a remote landscape here in Scotland, because there's just one road pretty much and it goes up to those farms, and then that's it. Mud tracks on from there on into the hills. Right folks, I'm going to end this video here because I'm just about back to the car. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back soon with the next adventure, wherever I end up going.